Welcome back, all you Point 3 people, to another exciting episode of the Point 3 podcast. Hero Scroll, Spider-Brando, Lou, back again. And as many of you know, we're about a year out from Captain America Brave New World at the time of this recording. And today in this episode, we are going to be redoing the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Yes, that is right. We are going to be discussing the highs, the lows, and ultimately what we, as the Point 3 podcast, would have changed to make this one of the better MCU Disney Plus shows. So, that being said, as a quick heads up, we are not going to be holding back on the spoilers, so consider this your spoiler warning. But now, without further ado, let's get into it. Spider-Brando, what are you feeling? What did you think of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier?
I liked WandaVision a lot better at the time of watching both of them. It just never sat right with me. Still, after doing all the prep for the show and just researching it again, still doesn't sit right. Seeing where we're at in the MCU right now and how I'll save some other comments for later. It just doesn't sit right with me. Had some moments, some bad moments, some good moments, and yeah.
Hero Scroll.
This is one of those projects that it's like the highs are really high and the lows are just really low, because I think there is a lot to like about this series. A lot of key points that we'll get into over the next, however long this conversation will be, but it's hard to remember some of them because you have to go through some of the garbage that this show brings up, namely things like everybody's favorite, the Power Broker. We'll get into that later. The weird villain, kind of not villain group with the Flag Smashers, and then, like Spider-Brando said, just the lack of follow-up. It just makes it feel weird when it shouldn't have been. This should be something that we're still talking about to this day in like a very positive light. Yet here we are, like we said, a little over a year before Cap 4 comes out, and we're like,
Yeah, I mean, listen, when you look at the show, like going back and prep for this, looking at the numbers of this show, they're not bad, especially in comparison to kind of how everything's been ranked and rated and just audience critic perception. Here at the Point 3 podcast, we do not swear by Rotten Tomatoes. However, Rotten Tomatoes just has a death grip on just TVs and screens everywhere. But 85% critic score, 82% audience score. IMDb has the show at a 7.1 out of 10, which is respectable. And its best episode, which was episode 4, The Whole World Is Watching, that got an 8.6 out of 10 rating. And there were only 6 episodes in the show. So it had a fairly decent build to kind of one of the higher talking points in this series. However, this is a perfect example, in my opinion, of a show that got crushed by the main storyline in the MCU. And its core character never really got that true torch passing like most of these new follow-up characters got. Kate Bishop to Hawkeye, like Kate Bishop feels like her own. Iman Vellani's Miss Marvel feels like a, torchbearer when it comes to Captain Marvel. There are a lot of connections that they had, but the working of the mantle of Cap and the passing of it, which already occurred at the end of Endgame, but it just feels like you're telling me this is supposed to be good, but what I'm seeing just doesn't sit right overall. Like something's off. And so that being said, before we get into what we would change, I think it's worth spending a few minutes just to kind of talk about the antagonists in the story, because a lot of projects that aren't favorable in the MCU, most people will say, well, it probably had a bad villain. So for this show, there's kind of 3 antagonists you could say that kind of are standing across from Bucky and Sam. And one of those, Zemo, initially started as an antagonist, but ultimately kind of became their buddy throughout. But you also had the Flag Smashers with Carly Morgenthau, and then John Walker as well. So, Hero, I'll kick it over to you first. When it comes to John Walker specifically, how did you feel about him kind of standing on the other side across from the main heroes of the show and kind of taking that antagonist role for a bit?
I think he was genuinely the perfect antagonist for this series. And It makes me wish they just had him the entire time. Because shout out to Wyatt Russell, right? He's a character that you absolutely loathe from his introduction all the way, I'd say through the end, even as you learn his backstory a little bit, that you can kind of be a little sympathetic about, but you just hate him. You hate him, the way he walks, the way he talks, the way he smiles, everything about him. It's just so pretentious. And it's a very stark contrast into what Steve Rogers was as Captain America and what he symbolizes, and an even bigger contrast to what Sam Wilson will come to, represent and everything in the show. So honestly, I wish they didn't do anything with Zemo. I think the Flag Smashers should have stayed away, to be quite honest, as well, and really let this story be about the battle for the mantle of Cap.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what it kind of starts off as, and then from the end of it, they kind of shy away from it, but then kind of go back around, and then at that point, it just feels like it's a plot point that's undeserved to be revisited.
It's odd to that point though, because it almost feels like you need to, there's that theme of redemption here, and Sam and kind of Bucky go through the way of understanding, like, am I worthy of the shield? Am I not worthy of the shield? And then John Walker kind of like disrespects the shield in a way, and it's just kind of this cool but strange cycle that they have with the shield specifically. And when you get to the point of where he uses it to ultimately kill one of those Flag Smashers, I think that was like gasp. Like, there's blood on the shield. Like, oh shoot. But when that scene's done, I'm almost done with John Walker in a way of just like, okay, like, I feel like that was your moment. Like, you can walk away now. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't feel great about him after the fact. And I think ultimately that's where, like, he just kind of fell flat. Like, it's one of those, like, it builds and then it just flatlines after he does that, for me specifically in this show.
I definitely lost some respect after that scene. I was like, they built it up to where we would be questioning if he's a good Captain America or like face for America. He goes out and kills a dude, and just like, yeah, no, it's not quite there.
But to me, that's the beauty of that scene, in a way, where it's like, you should be doubting this man, and you don't want him carrying the shield. That's the point of the scene. He's crossed the line that Steve Rogers never would have in his wildest dreams, and he did it out in open public on foreign land. It's meant to make you feel uncomfortable about him and not like him anymore, or even thinking about trying to like him. I think what ends up happening, though, is that a lot of the stuff around it, though, is what makes it fall flat. It really makes it feel like they never continue on with that, right? Where you think that, okay, he's killed this person, there should be huge consequences now, but there's not really any.
From where though? Okay, that's my one question. But like, consequences from where? Because you still get that point where you build up to, like, it's him versus Bucky and Sam after he's got the super soldier serum. He's breaking down. He's mentally unstable. He's doing his thing, and he's just like, all right, fight me, right? I'm going to be this person and I'm losing control of myself. But I agree with you. There should be consequences and it should come down from someone else. But from who?
Sam Wilson.
Okay. So you're saying the next part of like how Sam deals with him when him and he gets the shield back and then they have that kind of final-ish fight after he has his new suit. That wasn't enough.
No.
Okay.
Not for me personally.
Sure.
And mainly because it not only does it provide a little more gripping action, which I do think the show needs, but it keeps on going with that plot point of he's not really paying attention. He shouldn't be paying attention to Zemo or the Flag Smashers. If I'm being honest, in my version of this series, they're not in here. Like I said earlier, it's really just him and John Walker and Bucky. What I think they do perfectly with Bucky is the scene where he tells Sam what that shield means to him, and that kind of motivates him to keep trying. And I think that at this point in the series, when this happened, what it should have happened is Sam sees that and goes, no, okay, that's it. I have to go and I have to be Cap, because this is why Steve Rogers gave me the shield, so I can go be better and also represent everybody.
Yeah. No, that's a good point, because although I like the standpoint of where Sam comes from, it's a fine line between the political racial side of Sam's Cap and the ultimate like universal savior that is Captain America as well. And there's a lot of complexity when it comes to like how this show defines heroism. But I guess my question would be from the standpoint, Spider-Brand, I'll throw this over to you. Did Sam Wilson's Captain America feel like a leader of the Avengers?
No. The show did not set him up to feel like Captain America.
Yeah.
Especially because it took the whole show to get him to become Captain America. Pretty much. I think they needed to show him more in the suit and like with the shield earlier on, in my opinion, and kind of just like, I don't know, like Sam didn't have any, like he didn't lead anybody. He didn't have a team in this series. He only had Bucky, and they did nothing to really show him to be like a leader of a group of people. So I feel like the Cap 4, when we see him next, is still going to be in the same position, just with the suit and shield. Like, what's he going to do? Is that whole movie going to be about him realizing how he doesn't know what the heck he's doing? That's what this show should have been about, to set up for a movie of like redemption.
Yeah. And so I was curious of what you were saying, going back to, I agree with you. And the hard part is we just came off of Cap being a universal savior, an Earth savior, a world savior. And this show gave us the first like true kind of look. Well, I guess as a follow-up to WandaVision, but an additional look into what the MCU and the world is like post-blip. And then enter Flag Smashers, right? They were kind of that opposition to Sam and Bucky, but they're representing those that were oppressed and changed and those that were kind of left with nothing, and we need to do whatever it takes to kind of rise up and kind of take back, you know, what we think should be ours, right? I didn't think the Flag Smashers were great, but that being said, the scope and scale of this show for you guys, is that one of the biggest reasons why the show probably fell flatter than it should have, beyond just the mantle of Cap?
I'd say so, right? Because it's one of those weird things where it does make sense for what they're trying to go for in this particular story, but it just feels like a kind of convoluted way to go about it, where it's like, first off, where do they, we know where, but why do they randomly all become super soldiers? Doesn't really sit right, I think, with a lot of people. Carly Morgenthau is kind of bland, to be honest. And again, I know it sounds like I'm going back on what I said about Zemo, but if you're trying to tell that story of someone who doesn't want borders and nations and especially in this post-blip world, you could easily continue that story with Zemo and him continuing to advocate and be like, no, I've personally experienced what the Avengers and the Avengers battles have done. Really, in a way, be like the anti Captain America, where he's rallying all these people who have felt betrayed by governments. You could do that because he already did that in Civil War, so you just keep going with it. But then they just take that and they throw it away. They throw it to the side in favor of, hey, look at him dance. I don't know. There's a lot of things.
Go out of that though.
Is it cool though?
At the time, it was kind of like before you knew how the show was going to end. I would say in the moment, you're like, oh, this is cool. Like, where's it going to go? And then you're like, it didn't go anywhere.
Yeah, it didn't go anywhere.
Like, and not only.
And I was going to say, and that's kind of what it feels like a lot of the show, at least for me personally, does. It sets up certain things and then it doesn't really go or do a whole lot with it. It kind of like halfway commits and then it pulls itself back, and then it's like, okay, here's this other plot point. We're gonna halfway explore it, but then we're gonna pull back and we're gonna go back to that other thing, but only another third of the way. It's this constant give and pull where it just doesn't feel right. And then once you throw in the power broker, throw it all out the window.
Let's talk about the power broker for a second. We're saving the best worst piece of this show for last, and as many of you know, it was kind of a cool piece that was building the Falcon and Winter Soldier, where there was some mysterious figure was controlling criminal activities in Madripoor, and let alone Madripoor, just what they did with that is just unforgivable in my opinion. But the Power Broker's identity was a mystery throughout majority of this show. And it comes out as a reveal that Sharon Carter is the person who's facilitating the illegal activities, and she is the Power Broker in Madripoor. Sharon Carter, the nurse across the hallway. When that was dude. Oh my gosh, bro, that's I don't think we've ever given a double before, have we?
Not a 0.3 certified double.
0.3 double.
Yeah.
6 kisses down. Was this one of the most questionable decisions ever revealed in the MCU to this point?
Definitely questionable.
There are a few.
I'd say it's definitely up there. The whole morality, dude. My biggest gripe with this show was, I guess, tying into Flag Smasher and Power Broker, was just the character motivations just never felt like true. Like Carly was like 15, and she's out here rioting for. She might have been like 18, but out there rioting for a global revolution seemed a little.
But I mean,
real. And then Sharon Carter being Power Broker after everything that happened to Civil War and her entire life being like devoted to SHIELD and like government operation stuff. I get they may have screwed her over a little bit, but I don't know. It just didn't. Just came more of a shock than came more of a shock of like, how does that work? Than this makes sense.
The thing is, it's understandable for her to feel jaded by it, but it feels like such a one of those things of let's just do it for the sake of doing it rather than like building it up and making it make sense. Because like if you want her to toe that line, that's fine, right? Her being in Madripoor is enough, I think, to toe the line between like, is she still good? Is she still bad? And throughout the series, she toes that line pretty well. But then for you to fully be out like, no, she's bad. She has her own agenda. It's like, ugh, it feels like a huge betrayal of her character that we've known for such a long time. Yeah. Or, you know, granted, she hasn't been a whole lot, but it just doesn't feel right. If anything, I feel like what they should have done is have the power broker be someone else and just her work for them, and you never reveal who it is. Just kind of be like, it's someone in the back. If you ask me, it should be Thunderbolt Ross. But
thank you.
You know,
that's
like
just
there's
on the platter right there. But okay.
But you know, it's like it just feels weird and not done.
Yeah. This whole show, the way that you guys sum it up, I feel like it's just like you're trying to like put a pizza in the oven and you keep checking on it every 5 seconds and it never cooks. Like it's just done, and then you take it out and it's just
floppy.
Yeah,
it's very
like,
floppy.
What? Like, well, listen.
They did not let the writers cook in this show.
No,
not fully though. Not fully. They let them like kind of be in the kitchen, and then they were like, "Okay, you can cook." And then they're like, "By the way, you only have 10 minutes."
Yep.
We're on chops now. They're like, "Wait, what?"
Okay. So all of this being said, now the big question is, what would you have changed? What would make Falcon and the Winter Soldier feel better at that time, but also set up a better future to lead into Phase 5 and ultimately into Captain America 4, Brave New World, Hero? Let's start with you.
All right. So, like I said, if I could, John Walker is just the main antagonist. But if we have to keep Zemo, the Flag Smashers, and Thunderbolt Ross, I would say, or not Thunderbolt Ross, the Power Broker and Sharon Carter, I would say that you kind of play some of the events largely the same. You just have some of the reveals make a little more sense, where you have Thunderbolt Ross experimenting with the super soldier serum because it continues his storyline very well from the Incredible Hulk. Mm-hmm. And I would say even from like Civil War, where he's kind of realizing that it's not just the US anymore that has these problems, it's all over the world. So I need to create a little instability so I can rise up. You know, and you have that big reveal at the end be that he's behind both the Flag Smashers and the Power Broker. Like he has his hand in all these things. So that way he's trying to gain control and ultimately the most, you know, one of the most powerful positions in the US as president. I think that's what you kind of set this up for. That way when Cap 4 rolls around, it feels a little more natural. Now it just feels like he's just going to come out of left field again, and it's going to be like, ooh, okay. The other thing I would also say is you have Isaiah Bradley kind of have a bigger role because I feel like he kind of got lost in the shuffle.
Yep.
Which sucks for his character, because I think his character could have been such a good contrast for Sam, where he kind of is for the most part like the, you know, he tells him how he's like, you're the first black you know, super soldier, basically, you know, first Captain America, and he's very angry, very, you know, kind of bitter. I would say it would be a nice contrast for what Sam sees with Steve Rogers and what he sees with Isaiah Bradley.
Mm-hmm.
And again, they kind of do that in the series, but they don't fully commit to it. And I would say you should fully commit to it. So show some flashbacks of a young Isaiah Bradley. And you keep that theme going. And then you also, I don't want to say redeem because that's not the word I would use, but you have, once John Walker kills the Flag Smasher, I would say that's when Isaiah Bradley and Sam Wilson both are like, no, okay, we have to stop him. Like, this is where we have to get up and fight now, even though we might not want to. But what this means for us and everybody, it's bigger than that. So we have to go stop him. And I think that's a really good way of personalizing the problem for Sam, but also making it feel like a big deal.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you instantly elevate his stock as well.
That's the thing. Good characters in here, but they don't give each other that boost in the way that you kind of would expect that they would. It just, everyone kind of just ends up back in nowhere. Like, everyone's in no man's land by the end of this. A couple rebuttals to that, but Spider-Brain, what would you have changed for the Falcon and the Winter Soldier?
I would have liked to see, as I said earlier, Falcon, Sam Wilson become Captain America and like get the suit and shield and all that. Probably around like episode 3 or 4. I could keep one of the storylines going between Power Broker or Flag Smashers, but save one of them for Cat Force. Kind of like set it up in Falcon Winter Soldier. It would just be, from a lot of people that I've talked to about the show, everybody loves Chris Evans and Captain America, and we all wanted to see Sam become like his version of it. And it's been about, by the time Cap 4 comes out, it'll be about like 4 years since Falcon and Winter Soldier came out, if not longer. I think 4 years.
Well, fun fact: tomorrow is the three-year anniversary since it premiered. They premiered March 19th. We're recording this March 18th.
In March?
Yep, March 19th,
really?
2021.
It was summer. Oh no, it was originally supposed to be the summer. Got delayed. I digress. I forgot where I was going with that. No, I do. A lot of my friends and people I've talked to at the show just don't feel like Sam has taken up the mantle, and we discussed it a little bit in here too. And you need to do that by showing him at least 3 episodes of him kind of like, even just him getting into the suit for the first time, or just like talking to other people about taking up the mantle again after he got rid of the shield. I don't even think he should have gotten rid of the shield in the first place, but that changes up too much. And then him and Bradley having a better relationship all throughout Sam learning to become like Cap and like wearing the suit and like facing the criticisms that may come from it, I think would have been like an ultimate like, damn, like he's our Cap by the end of the show. Then now we don't even know if we don't even know if we're gonna like him by the time Cap 4 ends. And all these storylines are let loose, whereas they could have just focused on a little like 1-2. Probably say the US agent versus Sam would be the main plot, and Power Broker stuff like in the background. And that leading into Cap 4. I did not like the Flag Smasher storyline whatsoever. I get the point of it, but that could have been saved for a different show or just like potential one and done movie. I don't know. Like it could have just not even been anything in existence. But
the Garbo bin.
yeah.
That's listen, they could have been cool. I think one thing that Marvel Studios really struggles with is committing to, I think Civil War they did it the best, where you had Crossbones and he was kind of the first get out of the way kind of villain. Let's test some things, set some things up, put the plot in motion, those types of things. That's cool. That's fine. You can have a throwaway villain that may or may not show up again. But the Flag Smashers easily should have been that. I personally think. I'm just gonna say this is like if I were to add to the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and then I'll go back to one thing that I think definitely could have just been tweaked that could have elevated it. I know that we've had news, and if you follow the Point 3 podcast for our Wednesday live streams, we've touched on this. It's no secret that for Brave New World, they are making changes and edits, and they didn't like where the movie was at when they were supposedly done and finished with it, whatever that means now. But my guy, Seth Rollins, was supposed to be a part of the Serpent Society. It's supposed to be a group that was going to be included in the movie when it was still under the New World Order title. And we've come to learn through rumors that the Serpent Society was supposedly removed from the movie altogether. For those of you who have watched Invincible, groups that kind of have this theme are pretty cool. But that being said, the Serpent Society, I think, would have been a great opposition for Sam and Bucky to overcome together. If you wanted to recruit US Agent by the end of it, fine. Zemo, fine. Sharon, fine. But a group that the five of them could have one of the biggest Disney Plus climactic battles that we've seen yet, I think would have been super cool, and Madripoor would have been that place. The Power Broker could have been associated. We don't know who it is. Why, even if it is Sharon or she's working, going up against a group that is funding the Serpent Society and their rise to the ranks through the underground and all that kind of stuff. Just a little side story that would have made it so much more interesting to see. They could show up in any other different project after this, after they survive. Someone survives, right? I think that was a huge mess to use a group that could have been in this. Forget the Power Broker. I would have used the leader. I would have never shown the leader, but I would have had the leader be someone who's dropped in there, and you finally get the reveal, Samuel Stearns, when it comes to the movie. Bridge your show to your movie, and let's have fun. They didn't do that. Post-blip, they didn't touch on it. I 150% would have taken that Thunderbolt Ross scroll storyline, something along those lines, and work that into gaining control over the Earth. We saw that in Secret Invasion. Find a new home, find this stuff. The scroll piece for me is the number one thing I would have changed. Don't have Sharon Carter be the reveal. Have people be revealed that they're looking for a way to find that super scroll serum by taking the super soldiers. Experiment on the super soldiers. Find out what makes them greater than they are versus saying anything and they're like, oh, by the way, we took all the Avengers powers. Have there be a true origin. Have them start small. They give people a super soldier serum, see how it works. They experiment on them. Is this something that would work for Skrulls? No. Fine. Let's take people that are actual super soldiers that we know are proven characters and take them. I think they could have weaved that little Secret Invasion piece as an underlying plot point where it's not in your face and doesn't pull away from Cap, who's the new Cap, but it's a cool way to kind of bridge your shows to movies.
I like that.
I don't think that's too far-fetched. And I don't think it would take away. I think it would have added a lot to the main MCU.
It would have added a lot, not only to the main MCU, but to, again, Sam Wilson as Cap, because if he kind of is the one to realize that not everybody is who they are saying they are, and then you play that throughout the rest of the phase and let that be kind of more your street level problem that you figure out through phase 4 and 5, and you have him constantly appear in all these other projects, even if it's for a little bit, a scene or two, you've now instantly made him feel a lot better and continued to make him be like on in front of your mind and be like, okay, no, Cap is probably gonna come out again in X thing, or he might be here. Like, we're gonna be talking about where's Cap gonna show up. Right now we're not doing that because as is, the show doesn't even tease where he's coming out in. They do more of a Thunderbolts tease more than anything. And then they're just like, Cap 4, okay. And then they're like, by the way, it's delayed for the fourth time or third or fourth time. So it's like, man, and we still haven't seen him when he could have shown up in Secret Invasion, in Captain Marvel, in, God forbid, Wakanda Forever. You know, all these cool projects that he could have been a part of and really made him feel like a part of the greater MCU. And he's just kind of to the side. Yeah.
There's no excuse for that. I would have wholeheartedly attached him. Because here's the thing you get if you attach Sam to the Secret Invasion Skrull storyline. And for people being like, oh, the Marvels, oh, it sucks, and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, that's fine. But in Cap 4, knowing that we're going to get Thunderbolt Ross, Red Hulk, Thaddeus Ross, whoever it is, imagine him being the person who's like, hey, I think this is one of the first episodes that we actually talked about when it was, what do we want to see from Thunderbolt Ross? And I think one of the things, I don't know if it was Spider-Man, it might have been you, Hero might have been you, but it was the point of like, how cool would it have been if Thunderbolt Ross takes over as a full-blown Red Hulk? Like, I am Red Hulk. Like, no one can stop me. I am going to take this country and make it a world power because the Avengers can't help you. You don't know the Skrulls. You're not going to stop aliens. Thor comes down here. Like, you have all these people that are doing whatever they want, and someone is going to finally say, not today. And it is me. And that is his rise to power. Play Kingpin's rise to power. Heroes. Really put heroes on the forefront of, they're no good for this city. They're no good for this planet. They're no good for you. And that world level can trickle down all throughout. Your underground starts building up. All this stuff. And like, now you have a need for an Avengers team. There is no need for an Avengers team today. I don't see a reason for needing the Avengers besides just being like, oh my gosh, we need a movie that makes $1 billion. But in real MCU, couldn't tell you why. There needs to feel like a consequence. If we don't have someone like a Sam who's like, hey, Shang-Chi, I need you. He's like, I can't be with you. Why? Because I'm either in Tao Lo, whatever it is, or I'm in Kunlun. I can't be here. Okay, he's out. Shuri, I need you. I can't. Why? Well, guess what? Namor's about to invade Wakanda, or somebody just broke into Wakanda. Oh, who is it? Maybe it's the Thunderbolts. I have to deal with it. Spider-Man, can't. Why? I'm with Daredevil. Oh, Strange, can't. Oh, why? I'm with... Like, all these reasons of why we can't have an Avengers would stem from Cap being like, I need a team, can't find a team. I can't say Avengers assemble because they cannot assemble. It is literally a disassembled version of them. And he has to shoulder the burden of popping into everyone's freaking project to try to build another team while dealing with Cap probably would have done it. Am I a good enough Captain America? He did it. I didn't show up. He saved the universe. I can't even save New York. I'm relying on everyone else. Like, I can't be that leader. And then he truly becomes that leader by the time you get to a King Dynasty or Secret Wars.
Man, we could have a great Sam Wilson Captain America.
Totally could.
And we have a...
Totally could.
All we have right now is Sam Wilson Captain America. And that sucks. That really sucks because he should feel like something special. Look wise, I think he has it down. Looks one of the best looking costumes in the MCU. And I'm sure that the new one that he's going to get is going to look even nicer. But it's such a shame that 3 years removed from this series, we're still not fully sold on what kind of Cap he'll be. Yeah. And that just sucks. That's not the feeling we should have on such an important character.
And it's just funny, by the end of everything we talked about of what they tried to do, at the end of this, so much time has passed. The show wasn't memorable enough to give us a defined version of who we're going to see next time we see Sam Wilson. We still have to figure that out. So by the end of this show, did it really set out and accomplish, or did it accomplish what it set out to do? I think I can say without a doubt, no. The show was kind of pointless in a lot of ways to this point.
Yeah. The show's not bad.
No.
But it never gives you a reason to go back to it.
I've had
Can
no reason. Can they?
Yeah. Can they give us a reason to go back and watch this show and be like, hey, this is kind of important. It's relevant today.
I don't know. I don't think so. Besides just like forcing like a flashback or a callback to it, but there's not really much in there that I don't know. I don't know what I'm gonna say, to be completely honest.
That sums up Falcon and Winter Soldier. What?
What do I say?
Yeah.
What did it? All right. One final question before we close the episode out: is this the first big blunder for the MCU? Because honestly, between all the other MCU redos we've done, it can be kind of debated if they're good or bad. But is this the first real like misstep that the MCU took, and was this the first chink in the armor for people to be like, oh, there it is?
MCU sucks. Spider-Man, I don't know what you would say to this, but I know I can say at the time when this was done, you expected there to be a follow-up because you're like, okay, like that happened, wasn't terrible, didn't like it more than WandaVision, glad this didn't start the phase, but like, let's see what they do next. Like, okay, let's see where they go. And we're waiting, and it's like insert the gif of me sitting there as like a skeleton on like the bench or something. Yeah,
SpongeBob card where it's like 3 years later.
yeah That is what ultimately hurts this, because I think if they had a timely follow-up, the show probably would feel a little bit better. But it's a victim of so many things that the MCU is doing right now, to where it didn't like kind of give you a positive look back on it. And as time kind of goes on, it was. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, no, I agree. I definitely say it is, especially looking back. It's one of those cracks in the foundation that you see at first, and you're like, oh no, that's tiny. I'll come fix it later, and then you look back and you're like, oh no, that's actually really big.
Yeah.
That's how this feels, where it's like the more time we let it go, the bigger the crack gets. And right now this crack is covering half a wall.
Yeah.
It's not good. It's not good.
I want to throw one final thing out here, because something I think that we can always say is like, if they were to throw more action at the show as it was, would that make it better? And they had a fair amount of action, but when you think about who was fighting who and how those same people were kind of taken and adopted to their movies and shows, like Salmon, he smokes Batroc in the beginning of it, and you're like, sick. And then Bucky goes ham in Madripoor, you're like, sick. And then they both stalemate John Walker, who's a freshly baby super soldier, and you're like, okay. And then the Flag Smashers are new, and you're like, why are you getting smoked now? And then the Dora Milaje come in, and they're just like, I took your arm off. And he's like, what the hell? Like, some of these things I'm like, should never happen. And I think that's part of the reason why when everyone's like, Bucky might be in the Thunderbolts are going to be great. And I'm like, did we watch the last time we really saw him just get owned by 60% of the show?
Bucky's stock continues to fall.
It does.
It continues to fall. So it's incredibly sad, because he could be. I hate using wrestling again as a reference, but he could be like your Intercontinental Champion, where he's just the workhorse of the MCU, where he's just that cool guy that you can rely upon to put out something cool every time you're going to see him. But right now, he's not. He's just there.
Yeah.
And it's like, ugh. And it sucks. It sucks for both of these characters, because they both should feel bigger than what they are. And I know we spent a good majority of this talking about the Falcon side of the Winter Soldier or the Falcon and the Winter Soldier series, but that's the problem. It's like, when he's there, he's just there. He has a couple of cool scenes in terms of his flashback and then his action, but then that's really about it.
The flashback was dope.
Yeah,
that first starting flashback and him working through stuff was, I was like, oh, like this might be something. Yeah. Yeah. Here's a weird thing that I don't think we've ever really talked about, and I think this show really solidifies why. But we always talk about like legacy characters, or kind of those characters, like those OGs. Bucky kind of is an OG. Like, he's like a tier 2 OG kind of character, and he's had a butt ton of appearances in this, in the MCU. But he should be a character by this point that when a Kang shows up or some big next threat, you're just like, dude, at least Bucky's here. Like, Bucky will at least hold down the Fort TN style versus Cell for a minute and be like, wait until the big guns come in. But if he shows up, I'm like, get him. Like, they're dead. Like, they're just toast.
Yeah. But Bucky shows up and I'm like, he better have his good arm, because
at least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What a.
This probably did more disservice for Bucky than anyone or anything.
Yes.
That's my biggest takeaway from this.
Yeah.
Thinking back on it, it's like he's kind of forgettable, but not memorable. And I think that's like literally the worst thing you can say about a character who's been on screen like 15 times.
It made you feel for him, but they did not build him back up the way he should have been.
No.
It's just like, damn, like they wanted you to like feel for him, like just to feel.
No,
again, it's that. Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say though, he is one of those characters that are in my book to where if they gave him kind of that like Russo treatment, where he, gets onto a tanker and just starts rocking people left and right, I'd be like, my boy's back. Like, I don't care. Like, give him anything that you can give him the next time we see him, and let's go. Because I love Winter Soldier. I love Bucky. I like Sebastian Stan as that character. I would be on board if they gave him some weird power creep and he was just all of a sudden relevant. I'll complain about it after the fact, but in the moment, I'll love it. Every minute of it.
To be honest, I don't think we would, because honestly, Bucky's story's done.
Yeah.
Like,
oh, yeah.
Bucky,
oh, yeah.
the Winter Soldier story it's done. Like, there's not really many more chapters of that you need to go back and explore. No, he's going through the trauma. He's getting help. He's come to peace with it. So that's really done. Now it's just looking forward to the future. And you know what you make him? Cool. Make him cool. That's it. That's all you need to do with him. Make him a beast, a tank, and that's it. That's all you need from him.
Oh my gosh! But then it kind of makes him Winter Soldier-ish again, though. He's
Isn't
not
that-
cool as Bucky.
But he could.
He's got to do Winter Soldier things. I'm talking like you need to punch people through walls. You need to assassinate somebody. You need to show up and just be like, his boots need to make no sound. All I want to hear is some bioelectric Wakandan vibranium arm
But
just
he could.
mashing people.
He could.
But will they? But will
No.
they?
They won't, but they could.
No.
Oh man.
Both of these
Falcon
characters.
and Winter
This-
Soldier.
My final words on this. There's no reason why both Sam as Captain America and Bucky should not feel like a step below aces for the MCU of like, we have a problem. You know who to call. Them. Like them. Like that's who need, just very similar to how Cap and Iron Man were kind of.
Yeah.
Like there's a problem in New York. My guy's got to show up. Now I'm like, I guess it's Daredevil. I don't know. Maybe it's Spider-Man. I don't know. Kate Bishop, Hawkeye. Can he even get out of bed at this point? I'm not sure. I need to feel, I wish the MCU made us feel that Sam was on the way for every single project, the way that we probably feel like Doctor Strange is. It's probably the closest one I would say, like, this is on Strange's radar, right? Like, he can't. They're like, sorry, he's not a WandaVision. I'm like, okay. But Cap, Cap, he should feel like he's always a call away from being like, yo, I'm there.
They have one more chance. They have one more chance
Okay.
next year. Hopefully around this time next year we're getting hype for Cap 4, but we're getting more hype for Sam Wilson. That's my big hope, that this time next year we've gotten our Thunderbolts Cap 4 trailer, and we're like, yes, this is the Cap we've been waiting for. This is the Cap that we've been wanting. This is the Cap that we need.
Guys.
Only time will tell.
And then you figure Red Hulk's going to be in that movie. And you're like, wait a second. And you're like, oh my gosh, like the 08 Hulk team's going to be in Captain America's movie based on the Falcon and the Winter Cap we just saw? What the hell?
R.I.P.
My God, R.I.P. is right.
R.I.P.
Give it to Isaiah. Give him the shield. What could have been, gents. What could have been.
Jeez, man. Well, thank you everybody for joining us on another episode of the MCU redo. Let us know your thoughts. What would you change? What would you keep from the Falcon and the Winter Soldier? And let us know what other project you'd like to see us tackle next. We're always listening to suggestions. But until next time, until hopefully Captain America 4 comes and fixes everything that we've talked about in this episode, you need to keep watching. You need to keep reading. You need to keep nerding out. We will see you next time.